fuck it, we're doing it
Alright.
live.
No, we ain't doing this shit live. Fuck that.
Oh yeah, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, that would be awful.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's like everyone's out trick or treating. No one wants to hear about this shit.
Are you sure?
Shit.
I know a treat I would want is more life in hometown.
Well, yeah, that is the treat that goes around.
Yes. A boob in each hand creates world peace. I mean, how
A
can you
boob
hold
in one hand is worth two in the bush.
Yeah, but you can't. But you must be careful with these boobs. You can't keep more than one boob to each hand, because if you do more than one boob to each hand, that's how wars are started. That's how World War One started, actually.
I mean, if you think about it, how can you even hold a weapon if you got boobs in each hand?
Exactly.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the news of the month. All the new news that's fit to tit.
The news that you truly care about, the news that really tells it with their chest.
Yes. The one that really tickles
Does it with their
nipple.
chest.
The news that enters your head and just bounces around, jiggling magnificently in your brain until you think nothing but life in hometown.
The news that's just ready to burst at the seams because it's under so much pressure to escape.
We've cut out the Senran Kagura News of the Week segment and created it into its own news segment called the New News of the Month.
Any and all Senran Kagura related news is now going to go into this segment. So anything
You mean
that's
podcasts.
worth talking, yes, segment on our live YouTube show. Yeah, even though this isn't live.
Yeah. Good thing it's not live, too, because we were already would have botched this thing at like the first minute.
Yeah, we,
The only thing I'm hoping for is that I don't screw up and forget to save this thing, but I am hoping that's not the case.
Oh, please don't.
That would be horrible. That would be
it
awful.
would.
Alright, but yeah, we have news to cover. There was a lot of interesting news that came out today. Some interviews regarding the recently released in the West game, Peach Beach Splash, which came out, I believe, last it was back in September, I believe, right?
Yeah, last month.
Yeah, last month.
As of this recording last month.
Since then, it has gotten a couple of DLC packs with some character DLC along the way, and coming up on the Senran Kagura Game Watch, where you should be expecting, I believe at the end of this year, it will be Shinobi Refrelay Senran Kagura, the dating simulator starring Asuka. And then starting next year, we will be seeing the the quote-unquote remake / renewal of Senran Kagura Burst. What also later that year, we'll be seeing Peach Ball, as well as, well, provided it doesn't get delayed, the hotly anticipated Senran Kagura 7.
Yeah, and then one of the interviews, he does go into detail talking about each individual game, and so we could definitely go more into depth in that later on into the segment.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the interviews. So first interview that came out, it came out courtesy of Operation Rainfall, who did an interview for Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash with series producer Kenichiro Takaki. This interview was actually conducted at E3, and it only came out recently. Recently, as of when this thing goes up last month in early October. So, yeah, why did it take so long? Shit happens. So, yeah. Can't complain. Or maybe you can. Who knows? But, yeah. Essentially, the interview goes over just talking about, like, the series' rules. Like, yeah, it's, the game, the fan base has been growing, like, over the years when it comes to, like, the Senran Kagura games. But another big factor to consider is that with this fan base, it was also it also create like its own mini fan base within that fan base. You know, fans of different characters. You know, we have our Oscar faggies and the our homo sluts, and then you got your Ikarugis, Katsus, Yomis, Snake Grills, nerd bullying. You know, all your avenues are covered. And Yumi is just at the top of the pyramid because she's Yumi. But yeah, it's actually really interesting because you can compare that to the how Western reception to or Western fan bases to like the series has been, because it's kind of the same thing. We have our own little fan bases for like each of the different girls. And there's some fans that jump from one girl that's like, okay, I like this girl, and then they play a new Senran Kagura game, and then they find a new girl, and they're like Kendrick Lamar, and just be like, damn, and then jump to that girl.
Oh man.
But yeah. In terms of, and they also talk about how Senran Kagura is usually an action game, and it's interesting how for Peach Bee Splash they're switching over to a third-person shooter type of setup. So they were thinking like, yeah, you guys are gonna be all right. Well, I mean, the game already came out by then, but it was like at the time of making the game, it was like, did you guys have concerns about that stuff? And Takaki mentions how his team, they weren't strangers to third-person shooters, but that was the first time they've actually ever attempted to make one. And there's like a lot of nuance and stuff to consider when making like a third-person shooter, including how the guns feel, how the camera's supposed to move, how do the characters hold each gun, how's movement, all different factors. And then we also have to include multiplayer. You have to include the issues of balancing, where not only do you have to balance the actual guns themselves, but along with the skill cards that are utilized within the game.
Yeah, and for anyone that's played that game, there's a lot of skill cards there.
There's so many skill cards. It is ridiculous.
And it still wasn't balanced. You end up finding like one gun or one skill card that's just too OP anyways.
Yeah, you just get the right combination and you just basically destroy everyone. But yeah, and when considering also in this interview, it was also considering how reception of the series differs from like Japan and in the West. And previously in one of our podcast episodes, we were talking about how people were reacting super hard to an interview with Takaki, where he thought about previously toning down the series for Western and European territories, but it was completely misinterpreted. Well, probably not completely misinterpreted, but misinterpreted in a way where it seemed like he was good for the next game. He was going to go to just the absolute extreme, which is false. Now, but it is something for him to keep in mind, as he mentions in this interview, where the sexual content, well, in terms of sexual content, in Japan, they got like easier standards when it comes to that, but when it comes to the overseas audience, he just has to, there's something to be mindful of, so he might have to play around with certain things to get around it's around certain restrictions, but you don't have to worry, from the sound of things, you don't have to worry about him just going out to tone down the series in the near future. It's the fan service is kind of like part of the lifeblood of the Senran Kagura games. It's like it's part of its identity in a way. It's not something you just get rid of off the bat because of a lot of pissy journalists.
Right.
Alright. He also talks about like the reception of the PC ports of Shinobi versus and Estival versus have been on Steam, which he's been very happy to see do very well. And he was even really glad for, in terms of Shinobi versus's case, that it's got like the extra added benefit that the graphics are better. It runs at 60 frames per second, which yeah, PC version is possibly the definitive version for Shinobi Versus, to be honest.
It seems like the PC versions are more like the definitive versions of each of the games that come out. Really.
Well, yeah. Though in Shinobi Versus' case, since it was exclusive to the Vita, it's definitely the case. Though I mean, like with Estival Versus, it was also on the PS4, and I mean the PS4 is probably like in terms of like the difference between PS4 and PC versions. Besides the besides the leap in graphics, it's probably going to mainly lie within the load times and probably extra consistent frame rate on the PC, but I haven't heard anything about how if the frame rate on the PS4 version is inconsistent or not.
I've never really noticed any type of slowdown on PS4 version, but probably one of the better benefits of having these types of games on PC as well is that they usually have just the tiniest bit better visual fidelity, because sometimes PS4 can't quite possibly do like say full 1080 60 frames or anything of that sorts, while on a PC version you could always get a smooth 1080p 60 frames per second, and some higher fidelity on or higher quality textures on certain things, more enemies on screen without any type of slowdown, nothing of that sort.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, though when it comes to me and PC versions of like these types of games, like I see like a better added benefit for games that are like a portable game like Shinobi Versus, or the recently the port that released this year on Valkyrie Drive, which was also a Vita exclusive, where the jump in quality is just it basically the PC version is straight up the definitive version with just the added graphical fidelity as well as the very consistent frame rate. All right, but back to the interview. Another thing that Operation Rainfall brings up in this interview is the relationships between like different characters in the Senran Kagura universe, like how Kasaragi, she loves groping and groping all the other girls, but he also devotes some attention to the romantic side of things, with Yaku being infatuated with Hibari, or Emu's love and devotion to Miyabi. And it's kind of an interesting thing where Takaki sheds some light on these relationship dynamics, saying how it's like these girls, they're ninjas and they're in a ninja training school, and yeah, it's so yeah, you can imagine that's a very harsh life. But you can also see that as you can also treat that like a sport, kind of like a sports manga or sports team type of setup, where you have these characters working really hard together. Whereas they would form these intense relationships or very strong relationships with each other after working with each other for so long. So, and he doesn't really say if they're romantic or not, but it's something that's up to everyone to interpret. But for him, and I'm going to quote from the actual interview itself, he says, "But it's my idea that people who spend very close time together, working very hard together on something, will have this sort of bond between them. And that's basically what I'm trying to show. And just the idea that we should shy away from these things. There's beauty in a relationship when it's two women together."
Yeah, because I mean, if you really think about it, it's just like it's these girls fighting on battlefields, right? So it's like, they're having to risk their lives while working with their teams. And the bonds that you form in situations like that, like look at anyone that enters the military. They form very, very deep emotional bonds with all of, with everyone that they're working with, because they're out on, the battlefield fighting and dying for their lives. So because you share that kind of, hardships with each other, it's easy to open up and become very closely linked with each other. And that's why you always get military, reunions years after any event that, or, any war that they go fight in, or any type of, skirmish or anything like that. So that's very especially with these girls so young. It's like having to go through that type of situation. Of course, they're going to form deep bonds to help cope with those types of situations, and thus growing extremely close with each other.
Yeah. And I love how he also brings up, like, with the example of Miyabi and Emu, how, like, in the beginning of their story, or how this is shed upon during the Happy Joe story, where while Miyabi was in a comatose state, she is like, Emu kind of like, she basically clothed, bathed, and fed her while she was in that state. And it just really shows, like, how strong of a bond that these characters can make in that type of environment and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right. To continue with the actual interview, he also this is where they really started like talking more about Peach Beach Blast. Already brought up how one of the biggest challenges of Peach Beach Splash was just learning the basis of making a third person shooter from scratch, as well as the balancing that goes into the multiplayer aspects. But yeah, it's like with the amount of stuff that's in the game, it's like no matter how much you play test the game, there will be someone that will find the combinations with weapons that just wipe people right off the bat. So it's like they'll find ways to just break the game. Probably not in the same vein as like certain other games where you just need like one certain item and then bam, you just broke the freaking game. But when players experiment enough, they'll find it. But yeah, and it was noted before in a previous episode where Takaki mentioned how Peach Beach Blast was kind of made for Western audiences in mind, since they like shooters. So a question that came up was, what makes the game stand out from other games in this genre? And he answers how most other third person or FPSs in this in the shooter genre are usually war type games. Whereas Peach Beach Blast, it's just a lot more lighthearted. It's just pretty girls shooting each other with water guns. So they're hoping with with the lighthearted aspect, it kind of helps it stand out amongst the crowd of dark military first-person shooters with violence and stuff.
And what's interesting about that is because it's such a shift away from actual war themed, style first person shooters or third person shooters or whatever, the setting itself actually allows for different types of mechanics that you possibly wouldn't see in those games. Like, for example, in Peach Beach Splash, uh, there's no friendly fire in the game, but instead, shooting your teammates actually powers them up. Like, you have a soaking wet meter where the more you get shot by water, you end up filling this bar to the point where as soon as it gets filled up, you enter a state where you have infinite ammo for roughly about 30 seconds. And you can't really have something quite like you can't have something like that in a military thing, because it's like if you try to shoot your teammate, it's like it's going to kill them. So
Not yet. Don't have that feature in a military game yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, not only does it give you unlimited ammo, it also gives you unlimited boost and movement options. Well, depending on which weapon you have.
Yeah, so it's honestly really interesting how just changing the setting itself allows the developers to explore ideas that you wouldn't see in this type of game. And I honestly commend Takaki and the team for what they are trying to go for in PBS.
Yeah. Later on in the interview, they talk about like what were the learning experiences from making this game, and one of the things they talked about usually stem from the multiplayer aspect, where one of the biggest things you'll see in the Senran Kagura game is usually the cutaways of characters' clothing getting stripped away, and for And for the case of Estival Versus, they took the simple route where they just took the scenes out where you wouldn't see them in multiplayer. It was just like you'll see your character fly back with clothes being broken off, and yeah, the pacing just keeps kind of like going. Whereas this time you have the what are they called? I forgot what they're called in English. The finishers.
Yeah, the splash chances.
Yeah, the splash chance finishers. Yeah, which those things take a bit of time where you can't like kind of cut away with that. So to mitigate this during multiplayer, they just have a tent that appears where other players, or at least this is how he describes it, where it's like a tent that appears and other players can see that they're doing something together in that tent, but you can't see what's happening in that tent. Yeah. I don't know if he means that literally or just figuratively, but yeah, it's just like basically.
Have you played multiplayer on this game yet?
I can barely play multiplayer because it's super hard. For one, I recently figured out that for whatever reason I have PlayStation Plus. I do not know how because my account doesn't have PlayStation Plus, and yeah, it's really hard trying to find a match.
We should all just get together and play some multiplayer. You two scrubs against me. It'll be great.
But yeah, so yeah, that's how you like.
Skirmish finishes a tent over him. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and he also says like you can just kind of see the tent bounce. Does the tent also like bouncing that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it is okay. So it is actually a tent, literally a tent. So you just you're like, ooh, I wonder what's happening up in there.
So good.
Yeah.
Rocky's so smart. I love that dude.
No, I'm not thinking what's wondering. I'm not like, oh man, what's going on in there? I'm like, man, that Senran just got shreked.
Getting destroyed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now you mentioned.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's why it's up to the imagination.
Yeah. Now you mentioned before how when I was talking about like the gameplay, I believe how how you could also shoot like your teammates to kind of give them to fill up their soak meters, which is what he brought up later on, where he's like, yeah, I'm bad at shooting games and I don't have the reflexes to do it. So then it's like, hey, like no problem. Takaka's like, no problem. Multiplayer's team based, so and it's 5-on-5. So even if you're not great at the game, as long as you're working with your teammates, then you can still have a good time. And it's like, it's like one of the ways you can help out your team is just to like shoot them with water to fill up their soak gauge to power them up. Essentially, that was like one of the things that kind of make the multiplayer experience.
I actually really like that implementation because most of the time support in a shooter is usually just, oh hey, give them some health, oh hey, revive them, or like stuff like that, right? So it's like I think that's actually a fun take on being able to support people in this game. Definitely very interesting.
Yeah, and to kind of like cap off this to cap off the interview, it's like looking at like stuff he does in Peach Beach Splash. One of the things he would like to do or use in a future Senran Kagura game is focus on aspects revolving around water, or have like water-based attacks, water-based stages, and so you can use like the wet clothing look in future games.
Thank goodness he doesn't know Kafuru exists.
Yeah, thank goodness he doesn't. But then the interviewer is like, Kafuru will make very good use of that, I'm sure. And like,
and then you have to remind Takaki about her.
And Takaki's like, Kafuru? Huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a lot of talk about Peach Beach Splash, how the series has been received in the West. I mean, it's been the West so far, and just discussing like what the challenges of going from like an action game over to a third-person shooter.
Pretty nice stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just closes out with like some thoughts about this, where he likes he likes like the interviewer likes the female character dynamics and stuff. So
obviously, you could tell that guy's into.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, that's
So-
basically it for that interview.
Okay, so let's move on to the next interview.
Okay, so it was a pretty lengthy one. And this was with a Marvy representative out in Europe. And so I just wrote down a few of the bullet points. Okay, so it turns out that the series actually sells pretty well. From what the representative at Marvel said, it sells about a few 100,000 copies around the world. So that's pretty good for what it is.
Yeah, for a niche games, like that's actually pretty good.
This is pretty much what Takaki went over in one of the interviews previously. I think in E3, maybe one of the many E3 interviews. But there was a large, sizable female fan base, which, from what they said here, is about 30 to 40%. It's actually pretty big for what it is, and it still has me surprised that there are actually a lot of girls that are into a series that's meant for guys to get into. Also, the target age demographic has been 20 to 25, which I don't know. Take that as you will.
It's almost like you don't have to like try to make your game super inclusive. It's like if you just make a game that's appealing on its own, it'll just attract it. It'll attract an audience that might be diverse.
In post.
I mean, to be fair, you have to have a very high intelligence to understand the depth of Senran Kagura.
And no, I can't show you my tattoo.
God, there's a tattoo on your back with Asuka and Homura holding guns that says "Life in Hometown."
Oh my goodness!
Oh God, this needs to be a thing.
If any fans out there have any Senran Kagura tattoos, they should totally send it in to us.
Okay, so to get back on topic, out in Europe, been doing pretty well, and very much pretty much in the West in general. Actually, the series is just getting more and more popular, and here they went a little off tangent. A little on a tangent here, and talked about Valkyrie Drive for a little bit, and they said that Valkyrie Drive had like the fourth biggest sales out in Europe.
Which is actually
pretty big deal. And also Valkyrie Drive and the Senran series do pretty well on PC. And I was talking to this about Atsu when I was telling him about the bullet points, but my own personal theory on this is probably why we've seen a recent boost in popularity in the series.
Yeah, definitely. It's PC market is definitely, not adverse to the idea of more fan servicey type video games. So, and that is obvious with the release of the Neptunia series on there, and all the
didn't the Nep series like really blow up after it went on PC?
It really did. So obviously that is a good sign of like, oh hey, maybe we should start releasing more types of games like this on PC, because there is obviously a market there. And once again, the releases of Shinobi and Estival Versus and Valkyrie Drive prove that there is indeed a market for these types of games on the PC platform.
And the representative that was being interviewed, he had his 2 cents into Senran series, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think anyone out west can do a type of game like that out here because cultural
just cultural differences.
Yeah, because a lot of people probably wouldn't be too keen on teenage ninjas with huge titties out here.
Yeah, of course they wouldn't. Those contrarians.
But to move on, they also said that for the most part, other than the changing of ages or just outright not mentioning them, no censorship in the games that they do out in Europe. So it seems like it's pretty consistent out here in with North America.
The only thing they ever really censor it out here in the West, both in North America and Europe, is the only thing they ever remove from the games is any mentions of the girls' ages.
Yeah, which is perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in Germany and in France, it does really well. And if you know a little about like France, they love their anime. Like Jesus, man.
Oh yeah, they're straight up
Frenchies
there.
love anime. Oh man, so like it does really well out in France.
Dude, have you heard of that animated series called Wakfu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like looking at that, you know they're
No,
straight up
you can tell. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also in Germany, they had a few problems trying to get the game sold out there because of the type of content, but it ended up getting an 18 rating. They're surprised that because of the subject material of the game, it hasn't gotten into any kind of controversy. Being as sexual as it is. That's the gist of that interview. Really, the long and short of it.
Okay. So yeah, it's just basically like cutting out the girls' ages like really helped with trying to bring these games over because, geez, like trying to convince people about like Mirai's was gonna be like a headache and a half. Not to mention, what if people figured out in Valkyrie Drive there's literally a jailbait character with big titties.
Aren't all of them pretty much jailbait in Valkyrie Drive?
Not exactly. Actually, most of them are probably around 17, 18-ish. Momo's like 14.
Okay. Yeah, because
really?
She is 14 years old in that game.
Huh.
Yeah, because Shiki's actually like only barely 15, right? Yeah, she's actually just like 15 years old.
Yeah, that's what
she's
that
actually
me.
I want to say she's actually the youngest Senran besides Kafuru.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why Momo acts like a huge edgelord, besides her being all war never changes, it's because she's fucking 14.
Because everyone was like that at 14. I know I was.
Yeah, me too. But I was edgier.
Yeah.
I was Shadow the Hedgehog with 2 guns.
No, you gotta be like Shadow the Hedgehog with 2 guns and a cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so Atsu, it's your turn with your interview.
Okay, so the last interview that we have kind of goes over more, not anything recent, but more so looking forward to the future. Or Takaki gets interviewed talking about what Honey Parade Games has in store for not only Senran Kagura, but their studio as a whole. So they pretty much touch base on a few of the games that have been released and some upcoming games that haven't really been shown off yet. So one of the things that they basically go over is they just have like short little blurbs talking about each game. Like say, for example, the next game that's probably going to come out, Senran Kagura Burst Renewal. Takaki talks about how not only is it a remake, but also a renewal of Burst on the 3DS, which Doc mentioned in his interview. Now, what he kind of means of that is obviously some of the more obvious changes where Burst on 3DS was a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up, and now it's getting remade into the more traditional 3D action style that Shinobi Versus and Estival Versus have in their games. So obviously it's going to be a very different experience than what was had on the 3DS on the original Burst. Something else that Takaki mentions about this is, now he doesn't say if it's because of gameplay mechanics or just because it's the style, like the style shift from the 2D side scrolling to 3D action, but that this remake is also going to feel more aggressive than Burst did. So if that means that he's going to have even more actiony, flashier kind of combat mechanics in that game, it's not really expanded on in the article, but that might be something to look forward to. The next game that they go on to talk about is just a tiny bit more is Senran Kagura 7, and that how that game pretty much it's still in the not experimental or developmental stage, but its work on that hasn't started quite like how it has so far for two of the other games that are going to be coming out, Shinobi Reflay and Peach Ball. Senran Kagura 7 is going to definitely be the game that they're working on after these two games. And talking about these two games, Takaki goes a bit into his experiences wanting to make Shinobi Reflay, and that he wants to make it to experience HD Rumble. Like, he honestly really likes the feature on the Switch because it's different than just regular vibration controls that you'd normally have. So he felt like that with HD Rumble, there's actually something to be had there. So the thing that he thought about was, well, okay, Senran Kagura is pretty fan service heavy, and since HD Rumble kind of allows you to feel whatever it is that you're seeing in game, why not make a game where you feel like you're touching the girls? So Shinobi Reflay is going to be a game that capitalizes on that HD Rumble feature specifically. Now, going into Reflay, he mentions that at the beginning of that game, it's going to be like a very lighthearted romance, kind of just nothing, fan servicey or sexual of the nature. Just you and Asuka, getting to meet each other, having a good time, and forming a young budding relationship with each other.
And doing loot.
Yeah, that eventually turns into, you getting to touch her and, more intimate moments like that.
And before it turns into Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yeah, exactly. Doki Doki Literature Club is a game that's similar to what Shinobi Reflay is going to be.
Yeah. Eventually you're just going to be with just Yumi.
Yes, just Yumi. Now, let me state, that's a joke.
Yeah, it's
is a joke. Not like Doki Doki Literature. But no, like, he does actually give an example of a game that it's similar to, at least at the beginning, is a game called Tokimeki Memorial. I've never personally played the game, but from what he's described, it just sounds like really lighthearted fun. Mm-hmm. So, and then on to the next game, Peach Ball. Now, Takaki describes Shinobi Reflay as just like a quick one and done type game. Like, it's just a side game. Like, nothing, like major or anything with that. But Peach Ball, on the other hand, is actually going to be a full featured game, which is kind of funny to think about, that Peach Ball is like the more full featured game than Shinobi Reflay, but I digress.
Well, Shinobi Reflay feels more like feels more like a tech demo rather than a full-fledged game.
Yeah, it's essentially just a tech demo for them to mess around with HD Rumble. Now,
yeah,
Peach Ball.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when they revealed the game, they're like, Takaki was in his fake as fuck lab, just kind of like trying to get the feel of boobs with the HD robot. I was like, that, I don't think that's gonna actually work, but it's just like, it even said like it was gonna be a downloadable game at like a cheap price. So I was like, yeah, this is just gonna be a more of a tech demo game than like something something really fully featured than a fully featured game. Probably something fun, but not something
something you could really sink your teeth into. So now with Peach Ball, on the other hand, he does.
Wait, don't you mean sink your hands into?
Oh yeah.
Teeth, hands, same difference.
You sink your teeth into titties?
Yes, you gotta gently nibble on the nipple.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah, yeah.
right.
Well, but that's not sinking your teeth into. So I mean, hey, right?
Yeah.
But now getting back to the interview, Peach Ball is definitely a game that he's actually really excited to make because he admits that pinball isn't really that popular in Japan. But he's like, well, I like pinball. Screw it. I just want to make a pinball game. And the basic idea that he has for this is that basically, like, the girl's going to lay down on a pinball table. Like, they're going to essentially be the pinball table, and you're going to have the ball bouncing off of them. You know, you could just imagine what that is going to be like. So, not too much to really say on that. But besides his experiences overall with the Switch, in that he talks about how back in the day, Nintendo was like, I added fan service. But as the years have gone on, and Senran Kagura has actually proven to be a franchise with lasting appeal, Nintendo has actually lightened up a bit for them, and they're actually excited to see Takaki make games for the platform again. So that's actually really, really cool that, Nintendo is giving them their full support on making the Senran Kagura games for the Switch.
Oh yeah. The only thing they really have to look out for is is releasing next to something like Yokai Watch or Monster Hunter, but Yokai Watch's interest has been dropping due to the oversaturation of the games there. So there might be a window for him to take an opportunity of. He just can't let that thing pass by. But
There's going to be.
But you also gotta keep in mind it's also a console too at the same time, so you're gonna have to deal with the other first-party Nintendo mainstays. So don't try to release it next to a Zelda or Smash game.
Watch, I was going to say, watch, they release it along some game, like no-name game, whatever, that ends up being like a Smash, like, critical hit that literally no one was able to see coming. Like, for whatever reason, it just sells like a million billion units. And it's like, how? How does this keep happening to Senran Kagura, poor series?
Yeah. Every time on a Nintendo platform.
Every time. Now,
I think didn't SK2 when it released in the West release right next to the Phantom Pain?
It was, yeah, I want to say it was the Phantom Pain that it released right next to. And what? Estival Versus in Japan released right alongside Bloodborne, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Like, oof, boy howdy. Way to be put out to the slaughter. Like, I feel so like they need to get a firm grip on when they should actually release games. They shouldn't be releasing them up against such monoliths as those.
Yeah, for real, because that really hurts them in the long run.
Yeah, but something that does help them in the long run is the crossovers that keep on happening in the games, like how how he was excited to get characters like Marie Rose, Honoka, and Ayame into Senran Kagura games, where Ayame appeared in Estival Versus, and then she, along with Marie Rose and Honoka, appear in Peach Beach Splash. He really likes the idea of having crossover characters because there's a lot of good-looking women that could appear in Senran Kagura that fit perfectly. Just for example, like recently, Super Sonico was released for Peach Beach Splash, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. Like, you could totally see that happening. Like, it's not a strange crossover at all. But
honestly, like Peach Beach Splash is probably like the best opportunity for any of the crossovers because it's like you could not for something like Estival Versus, you could not put in a character like Super Sonico or Marie. You could put in Marie Rose or Honoka, but they wouldn't fit.
But not really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ayane works because she it's like you can adapt a playstyle.
She's a ninja.
Yeah, she's a ninja, so she fits within the whole spectrum of it.
Yeah. And speaking about more characters he would actually like to see put into Senran Kagura, one character that gets mentioned is Mai Shiranui from The King of Fighters. Like, he really would like to have her in the games. And you know what? I'd be more than down for that too. That'd be sick.
I've been wondering why isn't she in the game already?
Exactly. Like, how can you not have her in the like? Like, you have like Kasumi, Ayame, and like Mai Shiranui as like the quintessential like fighting game females with tiggle biddies.
Yeah, and then like as an added bonus, you later add on Baiken and Taki.
Exactly. Like, oh my goodness, it'd be so good.
It would.
Oh, now going on from there, like since we're talking about fighting games, uh, since they got done with Peach Beach Splash, Takaki would still really like to try to create more games with like different genres than just action games. So he did that with Peach Beach Splash. They made a third-person shooter. They're kind of doing that with Peach Ball, which is a pinball game. Another genre he would love to try to explore someday in the future is 2D fighting games. Uh, it gets brought up in the article how the interview asks, hey, how about maybe something along the lines of like Arc System Works? How would you feel collaborating about that? And Takaki actually shows really big interest in doing that. He would be totally down with working for them or like working alongside them. And to be honest, I think Arc System Works would do a really good job for a Senran Kagura fighting game.
Yeah, I would, if he does make a fighting game and make my dreams come true, and it does it with Arc System Works. I hope this is by Team Red, the guys who are usually behind the Guilty Gear Xrd series, as well as Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Because I would love to see all the Senran Kagura characters within like that kind of cell shaded art style, because they nail that look super hard.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good look. But you know what? I think I'll go on the opposite of that. I would love to see more sprite based art of the girls. And I think Team Blue would actually do a really good job with that. Obviously, that would be a really huge like budget thing where it's like having to make sprites for all of the girls. But I think Senran Kagura as a whole fits Blaze Blue's style of anime fighting. Now, whatever one, like, say if they did ever work with Arc System Works, either team making the games, I'd be more than down because Senran Kagura 2D fighting game, great idea. Like,
Yeah,
I wish it has already happened. I'm
yeah.
waiting for it.
Yeah, especially with Yaku's themes in the versus games, and as well as Riona's and Murasaki's. Those things sound like they came from like a Blaze Blue game or a Guilty Gear game. It's like these are straight up fighting game themes.
Exactly. Like, it's so good. Like, the series is so good. Like, it's just baffling that it hasn't been turned into a fighting game yet. Like, it would be so easy to do.
Yeah,
Because it's like you can make the single player like played like how the regular games do, but then whenever you get to the boss fight, it's a fighting game.
Mm.
Like that's how I see it. Like, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it was like now they have like a bunch of characters, so I figured like if they were to go with the fighting game route, I just hope like for initial roster, just get the regular versus girls, not
Yeah,
the
I would just want the four schools.
yeah the four schools, and then you can add the rest of them later, and then
Yeah.
like they have to make Kagura the SNK tier bullshit final boss fight.
Yeah. Or have Ren and Daidoji as the secret unlockable characters, like Akuma, for example.
Oh yeah, God.
Like either Rin or Daidoji as the secret boss of the game. Oh, that'd be so sick. Like depending on what character you chose, they have to fight either Rin or Daidoji. That'd be so cool. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Now, I won't go too much into this part, seeing as how it's kind of covered in both the articles you're talking about. But Takaki, he was actually at E3. He's like, oh man, there's a lot of Western fans here. Oh man, a lot of them are actually women as well. So he's toyed around with the idea of trying to make maybe like a game or something, or like trying out something that would be more attractive to females. One idea that actually kind of keeps on getting brought up in the offices over there at Honey Parade Games. You remember back in 2012, the April Fools that they did, where the Hanzo girls were actually drawn as boys.
Oh yeah, that one.
Apparently the name of that was Kagura Aoaki no Shonen Tachi. So, like, the women on the development team have been like, Takaki, please, you want to make that a game. So who knows? Like, that would actually, like, I would be more than down to see that. That would be really cool.
I would love to see that happen, just to see where do you go with, where are you gonna go with this?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that could be taken down a completely different path than what Senran Kagura has. So it would be really interesting. One of the things Takaki has really been wanting to try to quote unquote fix with the series is getting Western releases as close as humanly possible to the Japanese releases. He's like, we're trying our hardest to make sure that it releases in all regions simultaneously. But the team is small, it's like, what can you do? Like, they don't have the money for that kind of stuff. So, like, PBS was honestly really good in that it released in the same year at least.
Yeah.
So it's like,
usually it's a year difference.
Yeah. So I'm more than fine with that. That's honestly pretty good.
Yeah, they're slowly improving with each game.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned it back earlier in the article, but in regards to Senran Kagura 7, Takaki has mentioned that it's going to be a straight continuation of Peach Beach Splash, or that in regards to the story, it's going to further show some of the changes to characters, like how Ikaruga and Katsuragi are graduating, and Shiki, wanting to go overseas to go to school. 7 is going to have that, like, more of that in there, in the sense of you'll see where that has gone. So who knows? Katsuragi, Ikaruga might not be part of Team Hanzo in this game, which personally I do like to see, like, actually see the series, like the world, like the time progression in it, because it makes you feel like you're growing along with the characters themselves. So I do like that. So hopefully, there's more there's more serious elements, which Takaki says, okay, yeah, it's going to be more serious than Peach Beach Splash and Estival Versus. It's going to kind of be similar along the lines of, like, Shinobi Versus, which that game actually was pretty serious. Like, it, talked about burning down schools and killing other shinobi because, they're
Shinobi.
Associating, just because. So it's like, there are darker themes there. So Senran Kagura 7 is going to be another game.
If it doesn't get as dark as that new Heavy story, I'm not buying.
I don't know. Like, honestly, I would like...
I would invite that, honestly. I actually... The new Heavy story was probably, like, either my favorite or second favorite.
No, I didn't say I wasn't going to get it. I said if it wasn't going to get dark like that, I wouldn't get it.
Oh, okay.
That's what you meant.
Okay, so what would you guys think if someone actually canonically got killed?
I'm actually thinking someone might canonically get killed because of that teaser for SK7 where Yumi's just like, no! And I'm like,
no.
Well, I have a feeling someone's dead.
I'm being killed from the franchise. No.
And then Yumi's just left alone, and then while Asuka is just it's like carries her, and they're on like a car, inside of a car or somewhere or something. Yumi's just looking out like the window, and then Asuka's trying to see how Yumi's doing, and then Yumi's just like, "Why are we here? Just to suffer."
Oh.
Like can still hear the voices of my friends.
Oh my goodness!
You hear it too,
Ended with
don't
the
you, Asuka?
Oh my
man.
goodness!
I love it. I love doing that freaking thing.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
The world requires wet work.
And we answer. It's like no greater cause, no justice pity, all for revenge.
Make ashes
All for pudding.
diamond.
Okay,
Okay, yeah. Going
Punish
back to
you, me, win.
Oh man. Oh, whenever all the other girls die, it's going to be only Yumi.
Wouldn't it be funny if there's like some Senran that they didn't mention dies, like Momiji or something?
Oh jeez.
Damn.
You were there the entire time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Momiji. You taught me so much.
Momiji comes
Oh,
out of
well,
nowhere, and then Momiji is like, remember me? And lifts up a helmet.
Jeez Louise. Oh my god, that'd be silly.
That'd be
I'd love
great.
it. Or like Kennen or someone like that. Oh man, but going back to it. Honestly, like Takaki talks about how he would honestly really like to get games released on more platforms. Like PS4 and PC is like the most economical for him and his team at the moment. But he's actually like, if he could, he would honestly like to put the games out onto Xbox One as well. Because although it's not that big, or not even that big, like it's dead in Japan essentially. Takaki has seen.
It's super fun.
Oh, it's like it's even the gravestone is like crumbled. It's so dead.
Damn.
But like
The launch day for that game out in Japan, right?
yeah,
Like 2 people showed up, literally, like 2 people showed up at a game shop. No one lined up for that thing. That the game is fucking dead.
all 2 people also bought copies of Killer Instinct. Yo,
How sad.
rip. But no,
Rip
he
Killer Instinct, Rip X Boner.
yeah. Oh man. So he talks about how although it's dead in Japan, it's somewhat popular all around the world itself. So he's like, well, it's a popular console in like other countries. So hey, why not? Why not release a Senran Kagura game for that? Like he would just want to do multi-plat releases, but maybe sometime down the line, a game exclusively for Xbox One, because he's done games exclusively for each console. And so he's like, oh, okay, if I could do something with Xbox, then yeah, who knows? He might, even though the Kinect is now dead, he might do something with the Kinect. Who knows? But
he might be the person to revive it.
oh man, I would buy another Kinect just for that.
That'd be funny.
Oh man.
Buy Connect just to grope Senrons.
Oh, you know I would. Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be glorious. But back to the article. He talks about how one of his favorite platforms to actually develop for is the Vita. Like he honestly really likes the Vita a lot. It's small and portable, and it's pretty powerful for what it is. And that compared to the Switch, he actually prefers the Vita because he feels that the Switch is just too big to be like a portable system.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I could totally see that. I would honestly still love to see him make games for the Vita. Like, it doesn't even have to be Senran Kagura. Like, it would be just cool to see, like, another Vita game from him. But, who knows? Like, honestly, he actually, apparently he said that he talks to Sony a lot about how he would love to see them make, like, a new PlayStation Portable, like just like a sequel to the Vita or something. He's like, hey guys, you know it'd be really cool? A PS Vita 2? That'd be sick.
And the Sony execs just like stare at each other, just like sweating.
Oh yeah,
and
sure,
like,
yeah, sure. Yeah. We'll totally do. Yeah,
No, they look at each other and shrug.
security security, escort this crazy man out of our building ASAP.
No. It's like Takaki sitting on the couch, and then one of the executives just goes over to the side of the couch, starts pushing it, and then just pushes the couch all the way outside of their office.
Oh man, I wouldn't doubt it. Like I could just imagine like the comical where it's like you see the door open and you just see Takaki getting the boot. He just gets literally kicked out of the office every time he asks.
No, I was thinking like he sits down and he talks to them about the Vita, and they all just look at each other and shrug and like,
yeah, we never heard of the Vita. What is that? Now, last game that he really talks about in any sort of depth is Shinobi Master New Link, where it's the first game in the series that's obviously like JRPG inspired and also with a gacha system. One of the things that he actually really likes about making a mobile game for, say, iOS, Android, is that he feels that those systems are actually really capable of doing like really good 3D graphics or like 3D characters, like like they're pretty capable devices, and that hold on, let's see. Yeah, like one of the main things that he wants to do with this is by having simpler gameplay. He would honestly really like this to be kind of like a gateway into console Senran Kagura games for people that would happen to pick up New Link. He's also super duper interested in wanting to actually release it out in the West, because it's like, hey, we never got New Wave, so it'd be really cool to get New Link. I'd be down for that.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I'm really excited for that game. Like, I like Senrans, I like JRPGs. So hey,
If not, like all the people who are listening to this, go bug the shit out of Exceed and Marvelous.
Go register
Tell them that
for
you need this.
Go register for New Link right now. Even though you have a JP account, register for it anyway. So last thing that I'll talk about in this interview is that they recently added like some more people to their team to kind of start working on a different series. Like he talked about how there'll be a new game with like a different team with like a different producer working on it. So sometime in 2018, you might hear about what that game is. So whether or not it's Senran's or like a completely different franchise, like how Honey Parade Games said that, there's like several different core games that they want associated with their studio. Like, who knows? Like, I'd be more than down. So to sum it all up, like the whole interview, he just pretty much goes into like tiny bits and pieces here and there about what the team is working on and what the future of the series and Honey Parade Games is looking like. So he pretty much just says, hey, we got some stuff coming in 2017. We pretty much announced all of our big games for 2017. So look forward to 2018 for all of the new stuff we'll be announcing and releasing then.
All right.
Sounds good. So next segment of our whole Senran news of the month segments, we're going into the game related news. The stuff you actually give a crap about. You don't give a crap about people talking all the damn time. You care about the games, the gameplay.
We're talking about the games.
Information on games, information on new shit. So, our first bit of game-related news has to do with Senran Kagura, Shinobi Master Senran Kagura New Link. More specifically...
Man, that's a long name, jeez.
Yeah.
Just say Shinomas.
Yeah.
Okay, Shinomas.
Shinomas or New Link, either one.
Yeah, I'll just go with New Link because it's similar to New Wave. Alright, so this goes specifically into the new characters, Seko, Gecko, and Fubuki. Now, interesting thing about the new characters for this game, they were originally set to debut in Senran Kagura 7, but they're going to appear ahead of time in New Link.
Now, whether or not that's to kind of warm people up to these new characters, or they're like, oh, hey, we think these characters actually have really lasting appeal, or we think they're interesting villains. let's introduce them a bit earlier so that way people get a preview of what's to come in SK7.
Yeah.
Now,
Also, this wasn't listed in the game news, but another thing to note about these girls is that is that based on some of these tweets and information that's been provided, they have ties to the Gessen Academy.
yeah, specifically Gecko and Senko. Apparently, they're actually second-year students over at Gessen. Now, it doesn't state if they're part of the elite class or something. It says that they're part of the middle school. I think that's what it says, right?
Middle school building, not specifically a middle school like a
elementary, middle, high school.
Yeah, it's more like a middle section of the school.
So who knows, like, what that all entails? Like we know about the elite class in Gessen, but we don't really know that much more about the rest of Gessen. Like, we know what goes on with Hanzo and Hebijo, but we've still have been left in the dark this entire time about Gessen, besides it just being a private academy for wealthier students, or for like people or families that have more affluence in the shinobi world.
Yeah, which is very evident with some of the characters' outfits coming out of Gessen Academy. More specifically, ones that stand out are because originally Ryobi and Riona were originally Gessen students, and their outfits really show that it kind of shows like they have like a tall dresses and stuff that show like some ounce of wealth. But when it comes to their older sister Ryoki, now that is basically demonstrating wealth at its finest.
Yeah.
Like you're wearing the fanciest clothes.
Which is funny to really think about, because it's never really stated that whenever Ryoki was alive that their family was really that rich or affluent. Because all we ever really knew was that Ryoki was taking care of Riona and Ryobi by herself. So maybe, Ryoki ended up becoming a strong ninja just to support her sisters to send them through school. Which, if that's the case, that's like interesting lore tidbits. Like, I like stuff like that.
Yeah. And another thing that kind of started making me think more about these new girls is the fact that their names are Senko and Gecko. Well, actually, better to make this easier, I'm going to say Gecko and Senko. And the school is named Gessen. So if you take the first part of each of their names and combine them together, they say Gessen. And and from the description, it says that they have ties to the person who, to higher ups of Gessen. And I'm like, this is getting interesting.
Yeah, and besides those two, we still don't know that much about Fubuki, which appears to be the leader of their three-woman squad. All we know is that she's just a tall, dark, mysterious figure. So, who knows? Like, she might be related to like the owner of Gessen, for example, or the next person that's supposed to be in charge, or something. Like, I what I really love about this is that they're villains, or at least we're led to assume that they're villains, but they're at Gessen.
Yeah.
So, does that mean that Gessen is only pretending to be a good shinobi school? Or is there like something more to what Gessen does overall?
Yeah, because there's like we know, because as Atsu said before, we know a good amount of stuff about Hanzo Academy and Hebijo just from the games we've already played, Burst, Shinobi Versus, and SK2. Yet when it comes to Gessen, we don't really know much about it. I mean, if you were to just play Shinobi Versus, you would probably suspect like Gessen is just like the small group of Yumi and friends, when it's actually an academy. But we don't know we never really learned much about it because we're always within like Yumi's group. So,
In this game, do you think we'll finally be able to see Kurokage?
who knows?
Because you've never actually seen that guy.
He dead.
It's like we never see the face of other male characters besides Kirya, Murasame, and Hanzo. Those are the only. Oh yeah, and Dogen.
Dogen.
You guys remember that one picture that I think Nan just kind of sketched up, where it was like Hanzo and Dogen, and I believe Kurokage and Kirya while they were all younger.
Nope.
I didn't
Did
remember
you
seeing
guys?
that.
Oh, you guys never saw that picture? It's just like a rough hand sketch of just like the four of those guys like going into combat together. I'll have to find it later, but yeah, no, we've never really seen what Kurokage looks like. All we really know about him is just that he was a good shinobi that went rogue and ended up kidnapping 5 girls to send to like Gessen Academy. So it'd honestly be really interesting to find out more about him as well.
Yeah, not to mention it, considering the fact that this dude.
What if Fubuki is his illegitimate daughter?
I thought you were about to say like illegitimate
twist right there.
I thought you were gonna say like illegitimate lover.
Oh.
And it's like if Fubuki just straight up doesn't age.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like,
all right,
she's
guys, take notes. He guessed the twist.
Yeah.
That was the twist.
See, because it's like I want to see, think at least Senko and Gecko might have some type of relationship to the other girls, if they're also part of Gessen. But who knows?
Yeah. So far, the only thing we have to go on for like these 3 characters, or at least, or for the most part, Senko and Gecko, is just these 4 comas that have been coming out, which show. It's like Gecko is definitely the cuter of the 2 twins, while Senko is a more serious one.
Yeah, those 4 comas are pretty hilarious. They're usually they're tweeted out by the New Link Twitter account, so go follow them if you like 4 comas. But obviously, they're only in Japanese, so unless you could read that, then you're SOL.
Yeah, so brush up on your moon.
Or ask someone who's nice enough to translate them for you.
Yeah, hopefully someone. Alright. Just a little thing. Remember, if you're disappointed that you can't play Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash on your Vita because they didn't make it for the Vita, well, if you have a Vita and a PS4, you can always use Remote Play. You know, that one feature that kind of helps your Vita become like a Wii U or something.
You know, I totally forgot about that feature, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I completely forgot the Vita had that feature until after I got my PS4 and started playing Crash off of my Vita, and I was like, oh, damn. No, wait. Like Kendrick Lamar. Damn. God, I love how he made that album
How
cover.
come Kendrick is just got to steal from Viper, though?
He's
Really?
got to steal from the best.
Who's stealing from what?
Kendrick Lamar stealing from Viper.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Yeah. Alright, since now you're back, we can get to the next bit of news, which is the gameplay for Senran Kagura Burst Renewal, and I know we have a good amount to say about this.
Oh boy. Well, I don't
Here
say
come
that
the
in like
popular opinions.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be negative about it, but it's not something I could really be positive about at this point in time either.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of somewhat counteract that, but also at the same time agree with Fatsu, it's more along the lines of, it looks like I might enjoy it, but at the same time, I could see people's concerns with the game.
Yeah. So
I was excited for this, and my excitement just kind of waned.
So for people that might not understand what exactly we're talking about, obviously the game Burst Renewal. That's the.
By the way, this also requires a good amount of a good amount of autism to kind of understand our perspective.
Yeah. So Burst Renewal is the remake of Burst for PS4. Now, Burst was a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up, like I said earlier, or like we were talking about earlier in the segment. And Burst Renewal is a remake of the game using the Estival Versus engine. Now, for people that have played Estival Versus and Burst, Senran Kagura Burst and Estival Versus are two very different playing video games from each other. Now, the thing with Estival Versus and what they're showing with Burst Renewal just looks like it's a straight, like, just, it's Estival Versus 2.0. Like, it doesn't look like it's changing anything gameplay wise from what Estival Versus was. Now, normally you would think, oh, okay, it's the new game. Like, if you're to ever think of like any other, okay, here it has more defined game mechanics as the years go on. So that's really good to readapt the old games into the new one. Now with this, and why I'm kind of not too pleasant or not too happy about this is that Estival Versus, one of its main criticisms is that out of all of the Senran Kagura games to date, that one has probably had the most shallow of all gameplay. It's a watered down version of the Shinobi Versus style gameplay, which it's really generic. So to see that Burst Renewal isn't changing anything on that at all is kind of worrisome. Besides a couple of system mechanics that, for whatever reason, they're not talking about in any of these videos. But from what they've showed off recently, the little tidbits of video that they showed off is basically just saying, oh, hey, you liked the areas, like the environments from Estival Versus? You remember those? You remember the gameplay from Estival Versus? Well, that's what Burst Renewal is.
Another thing that's kind of like been a nagging issue, like I said, this also requires like a good amount of autism to understand this perspective, is the fact that in terms of the costumes for or certain outfits for certain characters, it's kind of a weird as fuck mixed bag, where in on the side of Heavy Joe, everyone's got their everyone's got all their usual outfits from in terms of Heavy Joe outfits. And then you have Haruka from when she's transformed in the original Burst in SK2 games. Her outfit contains like the boob window aspect of it, while in the Versus games the boob window is dropped for just the top half of her boobs being covered. Now, in the gameplay that was shown before, it shows that basically the outfit I just described from the Versus games, rather than the boob window stuff. And in the promotional material and artwork, and I would assume also extends for the intro and any character art which features it, all have Haruka in the boob window, which is a nagging inconsistency that's starting to get really bothersome, and we're just waiting to see, is Takaki going to change it? Yeah,
well, is now... he going... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing I also want to bring up is in this one, it was hard to like point out until after I saw the character art for it, and it has to do with Hibari and her bikini. So her bikini and in the character art in the bikini that was shown in the cutscene trailer that was shown are completely different from each other. Whereas the character art bikini features a polka dot design, while the one used in game was the one clearly from the EV series with the stripes.
Yeah, and it's, once again, this is like very, very extreme, like critical, where it's like, why would you guys care about this? type of nitpicks and criticisms. But the thing is, it's a remake of the very first game. Obviously, it's the game that started everything. So whenever you say you're remaking it, all of us would appreciate for them to try to stay as true as possible
Be
to what,
consistent.
yeah, because in Burst, Haruka didn't have uh her coat bot as a weapon. Instead, in Burst, she fought using just like slaps and kicks while throwing out potions, which having Haruka use coat bot in this game, it's you have to kind of then start to think to yourself, well, is that because they just want to keep Haruka now with this new consistent coat bot fighting style? Or are they just like not wanting to make that old play style for her anymore?
In terms of Copebot, I'm willing to forgive the use of Copebot because it seems like post Burst, Haruka's use of Copebot just becomes really inconsistent with how she was in Burst because after they decided okay, we're just gonna have Haruka use Copebot as her main way of attacking, they just kind of dropped her old style from Burst altogether. Even in the remade segment for SK2, that they just gave Haruka Copebot, a different version of Copebot, I might add, but Copebot nonetheless. So I'm willing to overlook something like that. But it's kind of like as you said, this is a remake. It's hard to really define it. It's part of it is a remake, while they say it's a renewal, which is it's like they're kind of redoing the original game rather than remaking it from the ground up.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I could understand not wanting to make a whole new playstyle for a character that, you'll never use in any, but I would appreciate it if they could stay as close to the original game as humanly possible. Because then it's there is specific things that each girl had in those old games that never showed up in any other game, like in terms of play style or outfits or whatever. So it's are all of those things going to be gone too? Like, you remember Mirai's counter that she used to have?
I think so. It's been a while since I played it.
Yeah, it's she would counter, or she would throw up her palm and have a small window. If anything attacked her, she would do a counter attack if it hit it. So that's never appeared in any other game. Who knows if it'll appear in this? Or say Hibari being able to throw the air shurikens of death and destruction that literally annihilated everything. And to go off from character specific stuff, there's also gameplay specific stuff. Remember, this game also had aerial ninpos.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. Another thing I've been waiting to see if they're gonna actually include in it are aerial ninpos, which, yeah, those were kind of another thing that kind of helps set apart the 2D side-scrolling games from the versus games, where your ninpos not only are not only usable on the ground, they're also usable in the mid-air as well, and they have their own unique properties. So
yeah. And what I like about having stuff like that is some characters' air nimpos were better than their ground nimpos. So it would encourage, say, a certain character to use her aerial raves into air nimpo, whereas some characters might just want to stay grounded with the combo and, use their ground nimpos instead. So, that also added some diversity to playstyles, which I did like. So once again, who knows if that's going to be there?
Who really knows? I mean, it's you brought up before how we're how many months away from the release of the game, and I suppose they're making progress on it, but it's just a matter of what is it gonna. What were we? It's like the biggest worry is like what are we gonna expect from a finished product? Because so far things are just pointing towards a just kind of like it's gonna feel like an Estival versus mod rather than like a actual remake of a game.
Yeah, which I mean, they're at least doing the thing where it's like they are including every like all of the original stories from the game or like from Burst, because what Burst was creative about was that it had two different story modes, one with Hanzo and one with Hebijo. So uh it will have that. So then it's like, oh, if they're too lazy to like, implement like gameplay changes for like characters, what are they going to also do with the story? You know? So it's like there's worries there. But overall, I'm still looking forward to Burst Renewal because it's like it's been a while since I played Burst. I'd like to re-experience the story, and I'd like to see what exactly this renewal of Burst is. You know what I mean?
There is
So,
one aspect of Burst Renewal that I'm looking forward to, and it will paint my excitement for SK7, and that is how they do the call it the Orochi boss fight at the end of the Hanzo story.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be really interesting.
Because this will be the first time they've had to do a Yoma fight in full 3D. Now they've had practice. If this is like the same team that has worked on a couple other titles, I mean, they kind of dipped their hand a bit in terms of the SK games in full 3D with some of the boss fights in Peach Beach Splash. But one thing I'm going to reference, or like a different game I'm going to reference for this case, is Valkyrie Drive, which has full 3D boss fights within it, 4 to be exact. Which, if any of the team that's worked on that game is working on this game, probably has like prior knowledge of how, like, maybe what to do for a boss fight and what not to do, essentially.
yeah, it would be totally hilarious is if you don't even fight Orochi, it's just a quick time event. And he dies.
If that is the case,
watch it happen.
That would be
that
awful.
Would be shitty as fuck. Oh my god!
I would legitimately stop playing the game and throw it in the garbage.
Me too.
I would. I feel like I would probably quit the series at that point because I literally am sticking around for Yoma fights with new Hebijo. But if I'm gonna get copped out like that, I'm just gonna be like I'm not even gonna bother.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. It'll be exciting to QTE.
Just have it lined up next to a trash can, just to make it easier, just to be ready.
No, I'll just put my I'll just have my PS4 at the edge of my desk and just have the trash can right below it. So I just push the button to eject the disc and it just spits it out into the trash can.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're just going to push PS4 into the garbage itself.
I might as well, because I got the PS4 for the Senran Kagura games, really, so...
Honestly, I did too, which is hilarious. It's like...
Well, you got it for the Senran Kagura games than getting the X-Bone for Killer Bitch Stinct.
Pretty much.
No, guys, you gotta step it up. I got mine for Metal Gear 5.
Oh, boy.
Oh, jeez.
No, you really gotta step it up. I got mine for Metal Gear 5. Oh, jokes hurt,
Yeah, but yeah, we're like 4 months away from the actual. Well, actually, no, we're less than 4 months away from the actual release. So we'll have to see.
Because it's November now.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to see how much this game comes together to see if this is gonna be worthy of a buy or just stick with your old versions on the 3DS. As frame rate and buggy as they are.
Yeah. Quick note. It'll be really sad if the most creative animations in this remake are all those like main menu animations where the girls are sitting eye to eye in the shinobi rooms.
Well, I want to say like those would be the only ones because like looking at the Shinobi transformations, they've did like different animations for those.
Yeah. But
But
it's like I like how expressive those specific animations are in that, and it's like you've never really had that much animation in the characters before. Like in terms of just like in regular gameplay or anything like that. So it's like, damn, that'd be sucky if that's the case.
yeah. Also, it's kind of ironic when I think about this, where everyone was like wondering why the fuck is Takaki making Peach Beach Splash for the 5th anniversary, and like everyone's waiting for like a Burst remake. Meanwhile, and then looking at the Burst remake, we're seeing how it's feeling like kind of like reused assets, reused stuff from the Versus games, including gameplay. And Peach Beach Splash, as much as you might want to hate on the game, if you do, I personally don't. But God, that game has so many original assets built onto it that it's actually funny when thinking in retrospect how everyone was thinking it was just going to be rebuilt from unused assets from Estival Versus, but it turns out it's got like the most original assets than the actual remake of Bird.
Yeah. And it's like, damn, that's a fucking shitty thing to think about. But hopefully they prove us wrong in the coming months.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully I don't have buyer's remorse when I get the special edition.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, you're gonna have buyer's remorse. There's no avoiding that shit.
No, I won't, because I'll have Yumi.
Oh yeah. You and me.
Another interesting thing about like the the story related scenes in Burst Renewal is that the camera that they're using more dynamic cameras than the old games, which use like kind of a static visual novel type of setup. I mean, it's still there, but they'll have like different camera angles rather than just like having the character stand at a slightly angled pose from the camera where they're not standing at it the entire time.
That aspect I actually really do enjoy.
Yeah, I actually do think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it'll be
And
interesting.
hopefully that's something that actually does stay in the games going forward.
Yeah.
So,
All right. All right. So, anything else you guys want to add for renewal before we move on?
Okay, I'm sorry, but actually they posted a picture of Haruka, right, on the one of the articles, and taking a look at it, it actually does look like she has the boob window shirt.
Yeah, we have to. I can tell. It's really hard to say. I mean, it's got like the same color as her glove, so we just have to wait and see.
Because it's like there's a part like I'm being like super duper autistic, like trying to look at this stuff really quick, and there is like 3 different shades of like on her boob, where it's there's like a skin pink, the pink on her shirt, and like a different shade of like almost white.
Yeah, I'm comparing it to her glove and her arm, and it does look like that. So, hopefully, it's kind of like, they've been using these placeholders just like they used the placeholder for Renegade Homura outfit when first showing off the game.
Yeah, hopefully. But, you know, I'd honestly really like to see them do some more stuff. Like, hopefully they just reveal stuff that's everyone's like, oh, shit, that's crazy. Or something, you know?
Alright.
Oh, well.
Anything else you guys want to add?
No.
Nope, that's it for me. Besides them like not showing off the shit that's actually different in Burst Renewal, like that system where it seems like if you get someone down to low enough health, you could just instantly strip them.
Yeah,
Like
they have to expand on that one more.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll have to see indeed. Alright, next bit of gameplay related news. This is related to Peach Beach Splash. More specifically, if you live in the West. There was a new trailer showing off Super Sonico. as a DLC character within the game. She will be coming soon, and you can have her dress. Yeah, you can have her cosplay as Shiki, and then have Shiki cosplay as Supersonico. So whenever you pick Super Shiki, everyone will think you pick Supersonico, but in reality you pick Shiki, and then you can laugh at their fucking faces.
Oh, it'll be great. You gotta troll them online haters. Now,
Should I do the JoJo meme thing? It's like I was Shiki, but a surprise, it is I, Supersonico.
Super Shikio.
It's like, but it is I, Supersonico Desu.
Oh, I'm going to be really upset if they don't include a Paradise episode that has Supersonico and Shiki together. That's going to suck if they don't. I know they won't, but
that'd be funny.
Like, I would just
actors just talking to herself.
Yeah, like I just love it to where it's like they're on, fighting together, and people are, wait, you both sound exactly the same. Which one's which? And both of them are like, no, we don't sound anything alike at all. Why do people keep confusing us? Oh, that'd be adorable.
It's like Sonichi, Shichi.
Yeah, it'd be great. Put Bat Hat and the headphones on both girls. You'll never tell them apart.
No one will ever know.
Oh man.
In other DLC related news, also coming to your Peach Beach Splash DLC page will be the Dead or Alive Extreme 3 girls, Ayane, and newcomers Marie Rose and Honoka. Because no one at Team Ninja remembers that Kasumi exists. So she's just sitting in the corner.
Who?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, did Kasumi ever exist?
Hell no.
Who?
Never. Exactly. Now, with
literally who?
Literally who's?
God.
Watch, we get Ryu Hayabusa before we ever get Kasumi. No, I want Rig. Can we get Rig in this game? That'd be sick.
Wait, who?
Rig and like the Valentine's Day costume?
Yeah. Rig from he's from Dead or Alive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, specifically 5.
Yeah, like just specifically, let's get everyone that's not Kasumi in this game. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, no, even better. Who's the guy that from Virtual Fighter? I keep forgetting his name.
Oh, Akira?
Yeah, just get Akira in the game.
Oh, no, he has to look like Virtual Fighter 1 Akira. Block model and all. Oh my god. No, the best would be instead of Mai Shiranui, we get Akuma, but the Tekken 7 version of Akuma.
Yeah!
Him and Daidoji having a stare down. Oh, that'd be hype as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the fighting game.
Even though Daidoji's more manlier than that faggot.
Oh, easy. Like, it's not even a competition.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, those girls are coming, and they also brought up the aspect of future DLC that will continue with the DLC streak, which comes from the characters from Valkyrie Drive Bikini, Ikitusen, and Supersonico, which is interesting for the former two, because if you guys, for any fans of Senran Kagura, if you remember previously, for Estival Versus, there were issues trying to get the Ikitusen girls into the game, and Takagi fought tooth and nail against the hellfires of fucking Funimation.
Ooh. Funimation's a bad term. You don't use that around the Senran community.
Yes, but we have to remember our enemies, the ones who took away our rainbow bikinis.
What are we here for? Just to suffer?
But yeah, and it's also interesting they were able to, and it's like that they'll also be able to add the Valkyrie Drive girls, since even though like this it's still a Takaki related property. It was like the game in the West was published by Peep Cubed rather than Exceed, though the PC version was published by Marvelous. So
Yeah.
Either way, we're getting all the DLC, so that's fine.
Yeah. And also in regards to uh Valkyrie Drive, I really, really hope. Oh wait, oh no, we were just talking. Oh wait, yeah. Sorry, no,
Yeah.
sorry, I got off track there. No, I really hope the skill cards for uh for the Valkyrie Drive girl are the cards from Siren.
Oh yeah, the
Oh my,
balls if they did that. The
oh my,
absolute balls if they do that.
jeez, fuck, man, that'd be absolutely crazy if they did it. The Madmen.
The absolute madman. This is like the balls you have to have on you to pull that shit.
Oh my goodness. That'd be great. Oh well. Someday.
Yeah, someday indeed. Just like how
But not
someday,
today.
yeah, just like how someday we will wonder what would a Senran Kagura mobile game look like, and Takaka is about to just answer those calls. Now, before he's already revealed Shinobi Shinomask for the mobile platform, and now we've seen actual gameplay of Shinomask. Which, yeah, when he said he was gonna push the limits of the mobile platform, he was not kidding. Like 5
No,
years.
if I remember correctly, there's interviews about it, and he's like, "No, I wanted this to be like a very pretty phone game. I want to
Yeah.
squeeze as much as I can out of this."
Yeah, that's what I was just.
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
do these models look so good?
Because they're using completely. They had to make new models for the mobile game, and like their boobs have actual gravity.
Like, it's crazy. It's like, why do, like, in my opinion, I think these models look better than what's on the PS4. Like, I like
It's
the
so
art
funny.
style. Like, I like the art style of these models. Like, they look so soft, I guess. Like, but still, like, I don't know how to quite, like, to me, it looks like Non's original drawings during the first era. Like, to me, that's how I feel about looking at these models.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. But still, it's just very, very traditional turn-based RPG style gameplay. Like, you have your characters attack, and then you get attacked, and then you so on and so forth.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with something like Fate Go, it's kind of like your standard, like turn-based RPG type of stuff on a mobile platform.
Yeah.
Except this one is rendered in full 3D.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that actually looks really good. Once again, like I was saying earlier, just why does it look so good?
It
Man,
does.
Yeah.
It does.
Damn shame New Wave wasn't like this.
Yeah, New Wave, to be honest, it's like, I kind of wish it was... I don't know, it's just like, it's such a hassle to try and play because it's not even a mobile game, it's a web game. So if
And
it's
it's
like the
boring?
most basic, boring animations.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you have to navigate it like a website, so it's already an annoyance in itself. With this game, it's just like, okay, you only need your phone and a basic knowledge of Japanese to know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I like the characters in New Wave. It just appeared in something else.
Yeah, or at least where it was on a different platform where I can actually play it.
Yeah, that'd be nice if it's actually accessible out in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for those who are listening, bug the shit out of Marvy and Xseed.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
need
definitely.
New Link
Need
over
this.
here. Yeah, we need New Link. I don't
Need
care
this.
what you think, punk ass.
I do
Do
wonder
it.
if they're gonna feature clothes rips in this game because from the because you told me before, like off mic that yeah, from the intro to New Link, there was no ounce of actual like fan service that we're usually used to for Senran Kagura games.
Yeah, this is New Link. Oddly enough, is the very first Senran Kagura open, or has the first Senran Kagura opening that has no fan service whatsoever. Like no girls getting stripped, No girls in like bikinis or underwear, nothing like that. It's either just showing them like relaxing at like their base or fighting each other, and that's it. So
Yeah,
it's like, huh, huh. That's interesting.
yeah. So
Interdasting.
yeah, so it's really interesting. It's kind of like it's like dialing back on the fan service. I mean, like, it's not so much that I don't like the fan service, but it's just like, huh. It feels a lot more like an action-y shonen type of deal, which is probably how I got the idea of mixing it with the opening to Dragon Ball Super for that thing.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like, okay, that's really cool. I'd like to see what they do with this. So
Yeah.
hopefully, nothing but good things in the future.
Yeah, and if it's not heavy on fan service, then we don't have to worry about, like, oh no, it's going to run into problems when bringing it over to the West.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
because Google likes to be a bitch about that shit.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it won't be any like. Well, the real problem would be like just someone looking over your shoulder while you're playing this.
Oh, I don't give a shit about that. I never did.
Oh no, they're more than allowed to.
Well, the thing is that people are going to be like, "Oh, I want to play that too."
Exactly, and then you make a new friend, and you guys both get into, Senran Kagura together. That'd be sick. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Anyway, so well, the next bit of news, we're almost done anyway. So, all right. So in Senran Kagura merch news, you like them Homer? You like those shirts that Homer wears post burst? Them casual shirts that got the motivational speeches on them.
This is literally the shit I've been waiting for this entire time. Why this hasn't been released before fucking makes me mad, and I'm glad that
the
finally
fact that
released.
you can make this yourself.
Yeah. If this shit doesn't come to the West, then I'm going to make it myself. Fuck you guys.
Well, you can still buy it. It's just be too fat for it.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's okay. I would be too fat for it too.
In addition to the Homer shirts, there's also a new tapestry in the forms of Yumi and Basho, if you're into that stuff. All available on Hobby Stock.
You remember whenever Basho was going to be released for PBS?
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
But she was.
Is she actually out, like, available for Western people to pick her up?
Well, not Western, but she's in Japan.
Oh, someday.
Yeah,
someday out in the West.
But not today.
Not today. Fucko.
All right. And now we're on to the last bits of news where it's like from there's a new subsite for Senran Kagura and the domain is called senrankagura.marv.jp/shinobi shoujo/ One of the things you'll see on the site is a relationship chart between the Senran Kagura characters. More specifically, the four schools, the four groups. Hanzo Academy, Crimson Girls, Gessen Girls, and Happy Joe Girls.
Now, what I find really interesting about this is, one of the things that's really noticeable about this relationship chart is that it uses the Shinobi versus artwork for them, which, why would they do that whenever there's Estival, PBS, all of those games out right now, right? Like, why do that? Like, also, it's like on the relationship chart, gosh dang, I can't speak.
Sound it out.
Yeah, it shows each girl's relationship with each other, with like either it being friendly or a rivalry, hatred or something, right? Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is that it lists some relationships, as it were, around the time of Shinobi versus. Like, it lists Ryobi and Riona as still hating Miyabi, or at least being rivals to her, which they made up in Estival Versus and PBS. So why is it listed as that? You know what I mean?
Maybe they
Yeah.
don't want to spoil anything.
I don't know. Well, like it wouldn't really be a spoiler or anything because it's like that would be the latest game where it's like, yeah, no, like everyone at least on their team should be friendly with each other to some degree, but no, like all it does is like Yumi, for example, her only interaction with any other character is with Asuka, and it's as a rival instead of like a friend or anything like that. Like same thing with Yozakura and Katsuragi. They're only rivals with each other instead of having anything more or like friendship or anything like that. So it's interesting at the very least. Like I want to know why they have it listed the way they do. The world may never know.
World may never know, indeed.
You'll probably have to ask who put that there.
But yeah, if you guys want to check it out, yeah, just looking at the domain right now, I don't know what this site is for yet, so maybe we have to wait a bit until we actually know what exactly is this site and this, as well as the new YouTube channel is for.
Yeah, that it only has 2 videos up so far. One of them is specifically for that relationship chart where it pretty much documents Asuka and Homura's rivalry with each other over the years. But it only uses footage from Burst, Senran Kagura 2, and Shinobi Versus. It doesn't have like footage from Estival Versus or PBS or anything like that at all. So,
yeah,
I wonder. Like, I just want to know why. Like, why they don't like the character art on the site doesn't have their Estival Versus or PBS art. Like, it's only Shinobi Versus and New Link of all games.
yeah,
And like their new wave cards.
yeah.
And
So
then
this is kind of, it's really hard to tell what this is for.
yeah, and the other video that they have is more of a fan service video where it's Asuka in a swimsuit. It's like an animation of like one of the new wave cards where Asuka, I guess, she's complaining about, man, my titties got bigger. It's too big for this swimsuit. While Katsuragi's like filming it with like her cell phone, and Asuka's like, "Damn it, Katsu, why do you keep doing this?"
So good, I'd watch it again.
It's man, everyone should go watch that.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Make that a priority. Head over to senrankagura.marv.jp/Shinobi Shoujo. That's spelled SHOUJYO/ and click the Asuka card and watch the movie. Or you could do it the other way by visiting their channel on YouTube, which is called Shinobi Shoujo something channel.
Yeah, YouTube channel.
Japanese. So I don't know if you can search it.
Yeah, I could probably look it up really quick, but I'm just like a bit.
Leave a link down in the description below.
Wait, yes, I will. And yeah,
the other the other thing I want to talk about in regards to this site is that it has descriptions for each character and all that good stuff and that relationship chart, but it also gives an overview of like the world of Senran Kagura, which once again it seems to only cite Burst, Senran Kagura 2, and Shinobi Versus. Like, I don't know if that means that, EV and PBS are like, oh, they don't really consider it part of the world because it's like in weird alternate dimensions or anything like that at all. But it's like one thing that the Senran Kagura fan base hasn't really taken too kindly to is the fact that technically the 3DS games Burst and Senran Kagura 2 technically those timelines are quote unquote over because the story on them is complete. But this site specifically has talks about the Yoma from Senran Kagura 2. That and the Shinobi, the Yin and Yang scrolls from Senran Kagura Burst, which haven't been part of the story ever since Burst. Like, that's pretty much like a forgotten concept, but they include it here. So, unfortunately, a lot of the text on that is in Japanese, but it's also images. So, unfortunately, you can't get a translation of them unless there's some kind soul out there that would be willing to translate all of this. But once again, it's just very, very interesting what they choose to show in regards to this site. Now, if this is going to just tie into like only specific games or something else, who knows? Until we could get like further translations on this kind of stuff. But once again, this is just one of those things where we'll have to wait and see. But I do find it actually pretty interesting what they choose to share on this site.
So yeah, with that's basically all of the news we have for this month. So any final words?
No, the only thing I could say is surprisingly, this month actually had a lot of interesting tidbits here and there sprinkled about it. Like we got more news about upcoming games. We got some information in regards to what's going to be happening in general over at Honey Parade, and like just in general, just like a lot of interesting stuff to look forward to, which I really do like.
Yeah, same here. I'm still looking forward to seeing more of, hearing more about Shinomasa, especially with the new girls, Senko Gecko and Fubuki, as well as hopefully learning more about Senran Kagura 7 sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say is good night and dream of happy boobs.
Yes. Good night and dream much of happy boobies. Boobs bouncing in the frolicking fields.